Well, hey, hello, and welcome to the John DeLong Show, episode number 24. Welcome to your weekly dose of the Monday morning nonsense. And I'm fading the music out here a little bit earlier than I normally would, just simply because we've got a lot of show to cover today. As you may well know, if you've listened to the show recently, I'm actually out of town when I'm normally recording this intro and this podcast, so I'm doing the intro a little bit early, and I've got a couple of interviews that you're going to hear from today. So you're actually only going to hear from me here in the studio right now, in between the interviews and at the end. And I'm not going to fuck around, as they say. I'm going right into our first interview, which is with CEO and co-founder of Proposify here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Kyle Racki. We had a great chat about his background, about what Proposify is, what software as a service is, how Proposify came to be, his background in terms of how he came from graphic design into this sort of entrepreneurial type endeavor. Also some music in there, and some just general chat, some general chit chat. And of course, we talked about how he and I met, which is actually karaoke. So here's Kyle on the other side of this little music interlude thingy that I put into the show in post. That's how I kind of deal with stress, is I add more projects, which is maybe counterintuitive, but
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, I know the feeling. This year's going to be insanely busy with like buying a house, getting married, and then I decided to throw a book project on top of that, so I'll be working on a book.
Absolutely. So, like, I mean, before we're just going to kind of go into this. Kyle Racki on the show. I kind of joke that I jack Louis C.K.'s, or not Louis C.K., good God, Mark Maron's interview tactics is we just go right in. Louis C.K.'s cool. Interview tactics are troubling.
And yeah, arousing for some, not others.
Yeah, well, just upsetting. That one hit home for me. I don't know how big of a fan you might be of.
Huge fan
of comedy, but like it was like I loved all of his stuff, and then to find out that, you know what, a lot of those stories that were whispered about turned out to be true. Yeah. That one was the first one that hit really hard in terms of this whole the whole Me Too movement that sort of popped up.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I was a diehard Louis C.K. fan. I mean, the thing is, like, in my mind, I separate art from the artist, so I can still enjoy what's his name, who directed Chinatown and The Pianist.
Woody Allen.
No,
Woody Allen.
Not
Woody Allen.
Roman Polanski.
Roman Polanski, yeah. God, I can play them.
You don't have to not like the movies because the maker of it is a creep, right? So I still love Louis C.K.'s comedy, and I don't know. I think he'll be back. I think it was obviously wrong what he did, and but at the same time, I mean, it's just, I think you have to have degrees of things, As soon as you start saying like, okay, being a creep is the same thing as rape, like, you both can be bad, but there's scales, there's gradients of badness, right? And I don't think what he did was necessarily meant like a lifelong, he'll never work in comedy again. I think he'll actually be back.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I had a conversation with my girlfriend about this, of like, it's hard for me, and like, I don't begrudge you for your opinion. It's hard for me to be able to, because like, okay, I'm a wrestling fan. Chris Benoit, maybe a name that you recognize, maybe not, very famously killed himself and his family, like his wife and his young son, possibly due to sort of CTE symptoms. He was one of the best wrestlers of all time, one of the best wrestlers from Canada of all time. I'm to a certain extent able to separate him from his art, but like with Louis C.K., it's like it was so connected with, like, the things that he was alleged to have done was so connected with what his comedy was about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard for me to be able to separate it. But I do agree. There's like certain areas where I think you can more easily separate the artist from his crime, and sometimes it's a matter of determining, how much was he a product of his own times, I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, this all being a sidetrack from me from saying since the last time we spoke, last time I seen you, you did just get engaged. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Engaged on the shores of San Diego.
Well, that sounds beautiful. I mean, I saw the pictures of your trip, and of course the pictures of the. I think I liked them on both Facebook and Instagram because I'm that much of a stalker of you.
You got to do the double like. If you like it on Facebook and then you see it pop up on Insta, you just got to go for it, I think.
Honestly, like I forget that Instagram exists like so often. Like I don't even know the last time I posted on Instagram, but it'll just be like, oh yeah, I think actually you know what it was is I threw up a picture of Debbie and I at the Our Lady Peace and Matt Good show. That was probably the last time that I posted anything to Instagram. I always plug it on the podcast, but I never really tend to use it.
I've grown to love it over the years. And actually, I took that. So people had asked about the picture of the engagement. So basically, if you're listening, it's me on one knee, with the ocean in the background and the sun setting, and it's like there's just this perfect moment captured. And people were like, "How did you time that?" And actually, it wasn't timed. It was completely faked. It was contrived. So basically, we went down to this beach. Called, the Sunset Cliffs was sort of the name of the area, and we climbed down the little cliff area to this nice little beach. There was a few people on it, had a little picnic, had a little champagne. I don't know if she knew the question was coming, but there was these three like stoner dudes, like these young teenage guys, just like smoking a spliff, 20 feet from us, while I'm like having this life-changing moment.
Yeah,
and
heart's
whatnot.
probably in your throat, and they're getting high as fuck. That's hilarious.
So she says yes, and it was great and everything. And then we were like, we need to get a picture now. And so I walked over to them. I was like, hey guys, I just got engaged. I just, proposed to my girlfriend. And they were like, congrats, man. And so I was like, can you take a picture? And so they were great. They were really into it. They were like, we were doing different angles. We got the perfect shot.
That's awesome. That's actually like I love the story behind that. It's just like so separated from the actual moment, but still so beautiful, like in its own weird way.
It is, yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit, Kyle, about your business and about sort of what it is and what it is that you do and how you came to do it. So tell me, what's Proposify?
Yeah, so Proposify is a company I've been running now for about 4 years full-time, 5 years, 4 years. And essentially it's a software as a service product, so SaaS as the acronym goes for this industry. So it's sort of like, I don't know how familiar your listeners are with this kind of stuff, but
yeah, I was gonna ask you what would be like a software as a service that like say I would use, because I've never had
Spotify, Netflix.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's basically any software that you use that you pay a monthly or an annual subscription to use. Businesses use them all the time for their like sales, their CRM, their invoicing software. Most businesses now have probably 50 or so different products they use to kind of automate different parts of their businesses. So Proposify is basically for writing business proposals. Any company out there, 9 times out of 10 needs to write some kind of document that outlines what they're delivering for their client, how much of it is included, what's not included, how much it costs, maybe a little background for the company or team bio. So proposals are generally these elaborate documents that you give a lead when they're ready to come on and be a client, and they need to sign them to say like, okay, I approve this. I'm going to pay you money now to perform this service for me. So traditionally, most people would always use some like Microsoft Word or Google Docs to write a business proposal, and then they would just PDF it, email the PDF to the client, and then they would try to work out the signature either through fax or through, maybe some online e-signature software. It's a really time-consuming, very inefficient process, and essentially Proposify simplifies and automates that proposal process. So for a lot of our clients where it maybe used to take them hours or days to write a business proposal, we're chopping that down to say 20 minutes or an hour. So they're finding they have to spend a lot less time on putting these documents together, but also they're increasing the rate that new clients will actually accept. So their close rate, they'll close more deals with it. And that is why we use the Glengarry Glen Ross reference, coffee is for closers, in all of our marketing materials.
Yeah, I know that coffee's a big part of the Proposify story. I remember when we first met, you gave me a link to your company or maybe a business card, I can't remember. And I took a look and like on the I don't know if it's still the case, but on the employee directory, everybody's favorite coffee order was there.
That's right. Yeah, we've really kind of doubled down on the coffee references. It's our logo. We even have a little coffee cup character we call internally Proposabot, which is sort of like our, for our live chat software. Anytime there's any automated messaging, we always use Proposabot. We dress him up in different things depending on the time of year. If it's Halloween, I think he was a vampire last year for Halloween. So yeah, we're really super into this whole coffee thing for our marketing.
Nice. So I'm just like curious. I'm always curious about like the entrepreneurial mindset and what drives somebody towards their successful projects, because this has obviously been a very successful project for you for certainly as long as I've known you, and I've seen it sort of grow from the sidelines ever since we met. What sort of led you to Proposify, to the idea of Proposify? What were you doing beforehand?
Yeah, so I started my career out of high school in about 2001, and essentially I took graphic design as my course. And then after graduating from community college, I went into different, mostly ad agencies that use graphic designers. So I was working in ad agencies or marketing agencies. Of course, around that time, early 2000s, the internet was still super new as far as using it from a business standpoint. Amazon had only been out a few years. The .com bubble had just crashed a few years prior to that. So the web was still this fairly new, unhinged, untapped territory for a lot of people.
Really the Wild West.
The Wild West for sure. And so around that time, I taught myself web design, and I taught myself how to design websites and do coding for HTML and Flash, which was really big at the time, using Flash for your website. So that was kind of how I got into the whole side of, websites and user experience design and web development, all that kind of stuff. So I worked at digital agency, the last one that I had worked at before I went on my own, and it was called Modern Media, just a local design shop around here in Halifax. And that was where I met my business partner of now 10 years, Kevin Springer. So he was, and still is, 20 years older than me. He was working there as a sales guy. And we were in very, very different parts of our life. Came from very different backgrounds. And, we kind of developed a friendship. And Kevin had worked he was an entrepreneur most of his life. So this was actually like his second desk job, and he was in his, mid 40s. And I was just a fresh-faced 23-year-old, 24-year-old maybe. And, it was just, we developed this really interesting, interesting friendship coming from two different walks of life. And he was kind of coaching me to go it on my own, because I said, I think I might actually go freelance. I had seen friends of mine leave the agencies that they worked at to just have their own freelance business where they got to work from home and got to choose their clients and and made actually better money than working for a company. So I kind of thought, I think that's for me. I wasn't sure. I was really scared to go out on my own. So Kevin kind of helped me through that process, which was about a year of doing some work on the side for clients, maybe working in the evening or on the weekends to get some client projects out the door, and then doing my 9-to-5 gig and just sort of doing that over and over again until I felt, I guess, the confidence to go out on my own. And that was back in 2007. So in early 2008, I finally they say shit or get off the pot. I finally got off the pot, or shit. I don't know which one that is in that example. But I basically took the plunge and became a full-time freelancer. And my first year was really good. It was kind of, it was a little hairy for a minute there. At the time, I was married to my first wife and had a new baby, Micah, and, didn't have quite enough work to go out on my own, not enough quite to cover my bills. But I remember I got this freelance project that paid me